Good day, students. It's Teacher Liam again, your math partner that makes math fun and easy. In today's series, we're going to talk about simple and compound interest. So what is interest? Come on, since when did you know that there's two different kinds of interest? In general form, interest is often associated with the word loan or utang. And utang, let's just say,
Elisyo, sa kabi, gutom kayo. Nanabog ka, ako ko yung bayri pag-iagi ha. Ay, ba kayo, gutom kayo. Sunod, magbutang na di kong patong sa mga utang ha.
now that, my student, is utang. Don't be like that ha, sig pangutang per di bayad. Now, if you listen to the scene earlier, you would hear Elisha mentioning the word patong, which means markup or interest in English. Which means when the next time Kate will be borrowing or loaning money from Elisha will be adding an interest or loan. But there's more interest we've yet to discover. So let's go and learn about simple and compound interest.
At the starting of the week, at Summit Talks, you'll hear them speak. It's only Monday.
Interest is the amount of additional money you pay when you borrow a person or an institution's money. Interest can also be the amount of money you receive when a person or an institution like a bank borrows money from you. Principal or capital is the original amount of money you are planning to invest, borrow, or deposit. In addition, interest rate is the percentage of the principal that you will pay or earn in a period of time. Interest rate tells you what fraction or percentage of your principal turns into interest over time. Furthermore, time is the length of time the money is borrowed or invested. Now that we're done discussing the definition of terms, I will now show you the formula of the simple interest, which is I equals PRT, which I stands for interest equals principal times interest rate times time in years. Now, why don't we try it a simple word problem? Gian borrowed 5,000 from the bank at the interest rate of 10% per year. How much interest will he pay after 2 years? In solving for simple and compound interest, we only have 4 steps, ICSS, which is identify, convert, substitute, and solve. In the given equation, we need to identify our variable first. Since interest is unknown, which means we will be solving to find the interest. Principal is 5,000, interest rate is 10%, and the time, which is 2 years. Next step is to convert. In converting, it is important to take note of the units that must be presented before we solve. In interest rate, most of the times, it is shown in percentage form. However, when we solve in finding the interest rate must be in decimals. So in this scenario, the 10% rate will be converted into 0.10 or 0.1. For time, it must be always in years. Since our variable is already in years, then there's no need for us to convert it. Now let's substitute. I equals 5,000 times 0.10 times 2. Now let's solve. I equals 5,000 times 0.10, which is 500, times 2, which is I equals 1,000. This means that 1,000 will be added as interest in GNs from borrowing money to the bank. Therefore, GN will pay 6,000 total from borrowing money to the bank since we added 1,000 to principal, which is 5,000, and 5,000 plus 1,000 is 6,000. Casey plans to borrow money from a family friend to start her business. She is planning to borrow 25,000 pesos with an interest rate of 0.8% per month. She sets a goal to repay the loan after 15 months. How much interest will she pay, and what is the total amount she must return? As you can see, in this equation, there are a lot of conversions. But let's take it a step at a time. Let's identify our variables. Interest is missing. Principal is 25,000. Interest rate is 0.8% per month. And time, which is 15 months. Since the time must always be in years, our interest rate must also in years, in order for the formula to not result to a wrong answer. We multiply 0.8% to 12, since there are 12 months in a year. 0.8 times 12 equals 9.6%. This will be our interest rate in percentage form. When we convert it into decimals, the answer will be 0.96. Our new interest rate will be 0.096. Moving on, our time is also in months, so we need to convert it into years. We know that 12 months is 1 year and 3 months is 1/4 or 0.25 of a year. Therefore, we add 1 plus 0.25, which will result to 1.25 years. Now let's substitute. I equals 25,000 times 0.096 times 1.25. I equals, now let's multiply 25,000 and 0.096, which is 2,400. And we multiply it by 1.25. I equals 0.24 times 1.25 is 3,000. Now, Cassie will pay 28,000 to her friend because we added 3,000 to the principal. But what if we encounter a problem that is interest is given but principal or interest rate is missing? Let's try solving such a problem. April borrowed 4,000 from a small lending business to help pay for her motorcycle repair. She promised to pay back the loan after 2 years with simple interest. At the end of the loan period, she paid 800 as interest. What is the interest rate of April's loan? What we're going to do first is to identify our variables. Interest is 800, principal is 4,000, interest rate is unknown, and the time is 2 years. 800 equals 4,000 times r times 2. Now let's solve. 800. 4,000 times r times 2, which is 8,000 r. Now let's divide both sides by 8,000. And 800 divided by 8,000 is 0.1. And now let's turn 0.1 to percentage, which is 10%. And our missing interest rate is now able to solve, which is 10%. Now that we've discussed simple interest, let's now move on to compound interest. Compound interest is the interest computed not only in the original principal, but also added already in the previous periods. I know it's difficult to comprehend, so let's start first by learning the definition of terms, followed by some formulas and then some word problem. So let's go. The terms are still similar to the one in simple interest. However, there will be two additional terms, which are the number of compounding periods, which is represented as n, and the future amount, a. The number of compounding periods is how many times interest is added per year, whereas the future amount is the total value of money over a certain period of time. The formula in getting the future amount of money to pay or receive with the compound interest is A equals P parenthesis 1 plus R divided by N is squared to N times T. Let's try solving an essay word problem to help us have a smooth start. AJ invests 8,000 in the bank that offers 5% interest per year. Compound annually, how much money will he have after 3 years? Let's identify our terms. Amount is unknown, principal is 8,000, interest rate is 5% per year, is annually, which is 1, and time is 3 years. Next up, let's convert the needed variables. 5% into decimals is 0.5. Moving forward, let's now substitute our variables. P, it is 8,000, 1 which is constant, R which is 0.05, N which is 1, then N is the same here 1, then time is 3. 0.05 divided by 1 will still be the same, so just plus 1, so 1.05. Then moving forward, it was 8,000, 1.2, then 1.05 cube will be 1.15765. Then after that, 8,000 times 1.157625 will be 9,261. So in total, AJ will receive 9,261 after 3 years of investment. Jafar takes out a 4,000 loan from the bank at 10% annual interest, compound semi-annually. If he pays back the loan after 1 year, how much does he owe the bank in total, and how much of that is interest? Once again, we start by identifying our variables. Amount is unknown, and we also need to know how much interest is earned. Principal is 4,000, interest rate is 10% annually, N is compounded semi-annually, and time is 1 year. Next, we convert the 10% interest rate becomes 0.10. And since the number of times compounded is semi-annually, our number will be 2. So when we substitute, we get 4,000 parentheses 1 plus 0.10 divided by 2. Then 2 times 1. Since 0.10 divided by 2 is 0.5, when you add 1, it will become 1.05. So let's solve. 4,000. So 1.05 squared is 1.1025. So when you multiply 4,000 times 1.10.25, it will become 4,410. So Jafar must pay 4,410 to the bank after 1 year. So in order to get the interest, it will be I equals A minus P, which is A is 4,410, and our P is 4,000. So when you subtract the two, you would get 410. So that's the interest that Jafar got. Although compound interest takes a lot of time and might get confusing, so don't forget the 4 simple steps, which is identify, convert, substitute, and solve. Simple and compound interest have taught us that receiving money from the bank might benefit us, and while recklessly loaning without a clear financial plan might lead us to a never-ending debt. So dear students, spend your money wisely and have a wise decision. Thank you. That's it for the GenMath series. Thank you and see you next time.